Phil Thompson this morning talking about that Liverpool midfield three, how he sees it. What's your preference? What type of player do you go with? Who complements each other the best? I like the fact that it looks as if Fabinho and Henderson are going to play. Fabinho sat at the bottom of that V in that holding midfield position, and Henderson a little bit more advanced, and Keita as well, as those two kind of advanced number 8s, Joes, you speak about. Wijnaldum's played there most of the season. He'll be feeling a bit unlucky. I'm presuming he's on the bench if he's lost out tonight. But that's a really strong, aggressive, energy, dynamic midfield three for me. Like I said, nice balance there. Fabinho sitting and Henderson and Keita using those engines, those legs of theirs to get up and down the pitch. Small little worry, always loving coming in at centre half alongside Van Dijk. But Liverpool should have enough possession of the ball, enough possession in the Porto half to make the difference.
I think you and Phil Thompson were agreed that Jordan Henderson can often be scapegoated.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Henderson. The point I was trying to make about Henderson, don't judge him as like a holding midfield player. He wasn't brought up as a holding midfield player. I saw Jordan play schoolboy football at Sunderland last year up there, 15 years of age. I watched one of the youth team games. He played right side of a forward. He was attack-minded central midfield player. He's disciplined himself to play that role at Liverpool over the years, and I think he's done it very well. I think he does get a tough ride. But actually, if you were to ask me what potentially is his best position, it's this central midfield position when he's got that freedom to get forward and he's got the solace of having the holding midfield player behind him. He's got a great engine. He can make the box. I don't think he's a decent finisher as well. I know that's not just off the back that he got a goal at the weekend. So I'm very interested in how he performs in tonight with the shackles off him a little bit, and you can use that real kind of running power that he clearly has. Because
when Liverpool signed him, actually, they were big into sabermetrics, the Moneyball side of things. Yeah. They were they're starting to get into that when they got Henderson, and even at the age of 18, 19, he was making the third highest number of high intensity runs into the opposition box, and it was stats like that which led Liverpool to sign him, and he's become more of a holding midfielder.
Yeah. Well, I admire that about him because he's kind of sacrificed himself a little bit, real kind of simply sacked himself a little bit for the team in that respect. So that's always a good sign for me. Somebody almost playing within themselves. We'd be more comfortable playing a different role, but he's prepared to play that role for the team. But Fabinho coming into the team has helped him. He's more not as athletic as Henderson, but has that real kind of defensive mindset. I think those two could easily play as a two. That's the beauty of Fabinho coming in. We haven't seen a lot of Henderson and Fabinho employed as a two, and maybe an orthodox number 10 in front of them, but he's going to stick with his orthodox midfield three. But I really like it. I really like to look at those three. It's just absolutely dynamic. And a night like this at Anfield, energy charged as well inside the stadium, those players, Henderson and Kane in particular, should really respond to that. Okay, well, let's see what they're up against. We're joined by Tom Kundert. He's the creator of Portuguese magazine. Evening, Tom.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining us. How are Porto going?
Porto are going very well. They're having quite an interesting season. They entered this season with the possibility of winning in 5 competitions. They won the Super Cup. They got to the final of the Portuguese League Cup. So they just lost on penalties. They're in the final of the Portuguese Cup, and exceeded expectations in the Champions League. And they're also in the mix, very much in the mix to try and retain their league title. So they're having a pretty successful season, it has to be said. Are they pretty similar outfit to the one we saw Liverpool beat 5-0 last year? Yeah, pretty similar. Not too much change in personnel. I suppose the big difference compared to last year in terms of personnel, in terms of the squad, is Militão. Of course, the young Brazilian centre-back, he's come in, he's just been absolutely superb. Formed a superb partnership at the heart of the defence with Felipe. And of course, Real Madrid have kind of rubber stamped how good he's been. They spent €50 million to take him to Spain next season. And I suppose the other big difference compared to last season, of course, will be the fact that Danilo is playing. Danilo missed the tie last year through injury, and he is really such a key player for Porto, especially in this game. I think the first leg, where of course Porto will be on the defensive, you'd expect, for most of the game. And he's just a superb defensive midfielder, and he'll have to be really on top of his game. Tom, do you mind me asking you how strong defensively are this team? Obviously don't get tested too greatly on a week-to-week basis
over in Portugal, what they're going to be facing tonight. Forget about Liverpool's front three. We've been talking about the kind of running power of Henderson and potentially Keita from that central midfield position, joining up with those front three, almost a front five at times. You've mentioned Militao, young and experienced player coming in at centre half, but collectively this kind of Porto team, do you feel as if they can hold out, they can kind of soak up the kind of sustained pressure they're going to get from this Liverpool team tonight?
Yeah, well, that's the big question. You're absolutely right. Of course, Porto don't come up against teams of the calibre of Liverpool very often in a season. Well, maybe not even at all. You could argue only when they play Benfica away. Sporting Braga, even a step down in level. Yeah. And so this is a very big test for them. I'd say the spine of Porto's defence is very strong. I think Felipe and Militao, top class players. Of course, Casillas still doing the business at his age. And like I say, Danilo in front of the defence. So I think that the heart of the Porto defence will make it difficult for Liverpool to get through there. But the big problem for Porto, of course, is fullbacks, especially Maxi Pereira, who's playing at right back, because that's because of injuries and suspensions. He hasn't played very much this season. And you've got to worry. A lot of people in Portugal have been worrying that Sadio Mane might make a bit of hay there on that right, the left flank, as Liverpool are attacking Portugal. The right side of Porto's defence, that really could be a weak spot. Yeah. On the other hand, on the left-hand flank, maybe it's the other way around, because Alex Telles, of course, crucial that he's passed his late fitness test, is really. It's a bit like Liverpool, he's a fullback, but one of the team's main attacking weapons, and he's got a fantastic delivery of his left foot. And also, just in front of him, Jesus Corona, the Mexican winger, he's having his best season without a doubt for Porto. So those two, pushing forward, may be able to cause a bit of trouble for Liverpool, and I suppose that's the plan, because if Porto just try and, like you say, sit back and soak up the pressure for 90 minutes, I think that's really asking for trouble. Do you have any sneaking suspicion Porto can do something here? They're obviously massive underdogs. Yeah, I think, everyone's expecting Liverpool to win. I think everyone, even here in Portugal, they make Liverpool big favourites. So I suppose perhaps the big advantage, or a slight advantage Porto might have, is a level of complacency. I'm sure Klopp has been at pains to say, this is a tough match, and I'm sure he's transmitted that to his players. But even subconsciously, they just really battered Porto, didn't they? That first game last year. So they must, they must think that it's not going to be so tough. That said, I think one big difference between this year and last year, of course, is the fact that the first leg is at Anfield, and I think that could make a big difference, because it was a big problem for Porto last year when they conceded that early goal, and of course they weren't quite sure how to approach that match. And once they conceded the early goal, then Liverpool just picked them off on the counter attack, and they were just they just absolutely swamped them. And this match, I think Porto would have a definite plan. Try and keep it as tight as possible. Try and just keep basically in the tie. To take it back to Portugal, and then they can just go all out and try and turn it around in a second leg. So if they can get out of Anfield with maybe just a 1-goal difference, I think it'd make for a very interesting second leg. Okay, Tom, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Cheers, Tom. Okay, thanks. Cheers. Tom Kundert there. Kenny, what's going to happen? Oh, Liverpool win. I wouldn't say necessarily a half a goal. Wouldn't surprise me. Maybe even 1-2-0 for Liverpool. But for me, that's good enough. 1-0 is good enough for Liverpool tonight. Okay. Spurs City, we're looking forward to it. We're taking a short break. We're going to preview that game next.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Imagine carefree days by the ocean. Days where you don't have to worry about a thing, while you snuggle up in your Trump Doombeg suite and watch the waves roll in. Let the wind take your breath away as you stroll along Duckmore Beach. Then step in from the roar of the wild Atlantic Ocean and linger for longer by an open fire. Escape to West Clare. For our best offers, visit trumphotels.com/Ireland. Trump Doombeg by the ocean.
As the dog of the house, I know exactly what my family are thinking. Right now, they're convinced I am upset they're heading off on holidays. Me? Upset? Yeah, right. They have AA travel insurance, so I won't have to worry about them while I'm living it up with the neighbour's French poodle, Fifi. Ooh la la.
Go to the AA.ie and get annual travel insurance from only $16.99. And you're even covered before you go. Who's got clever travel insurance? Value Price covers one adult under 50 to Europe holding private medical insurance. Price excludes €1.50 handling fee. AA Insurance is tied to interpartner assistance for the purpose of selling travel insurance. AA Ireland Limited Trading as AA Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The Audi Approved Plus used car sales event is now on. Discover your premium used Audi today with a 12-month warranty and exclusive 3.9% APR available only at your local authorised Audi dealer. It doesn't have to be new to be everything you've dreamed of. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement and subject to lending criteria. Deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. Volkswagen Bank GmbH Branch Ireland is authorised by the Federal Financial Supervisory Authority in Germany and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules. Visit audi.ie/used cars.
Our world turns on small choices that make a huge difference. Like bio-LPG, a new energy for homes and businesses only from Caller. Bio-LPG is 100% renewable and works like regular Caller gas, but it cuts emissions by at least 50%, keeping the world turning for future generations. Something we're very proud of at Caller, and a choice you'll be proud of too. Caller Bio-LPG, a small choice that changes everything. See calorgas.ie.
This is an emergency appeal from Concern Worldwide. Cyclone Idai is threatening the lives of nearly 1.7 million people in Malawi and Mozambique. Heavy rains and floods have washed away homes and displaced thousands. Please help Concern provide immediate shelter and life-saving essentials. Call 1850 410 510 or visit concern.net today to give what you can. Thank you.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now, welcome back. So, Spurs against Man City. City have won 11 of their last 16 matches against Spurs, who've drawn 1 and lost 4, all of those matches in the Premier League. We were wondering how Spurs would line up, and they've gone with 4 at the back. Why? Yeah, what's Pochettino thinking?
Yeah, this is what I like to see with Spurs. I like to see this back 4. I think out of the combination Vertonghen and Alderweireld is strong enough as a pairing, and I think what it does then enables you to get an extra player higher up the pitch. Spurs can play a 4-3-3 tonight, get 3 players high up the pitch, because I think at times they will try and press Manchester City as high up as they can, particularly when they see that team sheet and they see Delph left back and Otamendi playing at centre half. I'm not amazed, but I'm surprised Otamendi's playing ahead of John Stones, because the alarm bells are ringing for me if I'm a Manchester City supporter.
I wonder if Stone's carrying an injury or something.
No, he's not. This has been his
strange.
It's not. This has been his preference. Of late, he's stuck with Otamendi. So that for me, those Spurs players must be itching. And it actually wouldn't surprise me. Spurs have played a diamond shape at times this season, Joe. And the players he has at his disposal this evening, he could very easily turn it into a diamond. Kane and Son up front as a pair, and Eriksen playing at the top of the diamond, wings to the bottom, Sissoko and Ali either side. Now, it would open themselves up a little bit down the sides, I understand that, but what it would do would give you Kane and Son operating high up the pitch. And when you have a weakness in the centre of defence, and I'll go on record, I've said it before, for me, Nicolas Otamendi is a weakness. If he can get pressure down that side of the pitch, then you've got a real chance of exposing that. And if you're going to put that high press on him, which I think Spurs will, far better for me to have a front 2 high up the pitch. Because when those 2 Manchester City centre-halves split to the edge of the box, immediately you can go and engage him with your front 2. Fernandinho drops in between those 2 centre-halves to make up a 3. Immediately Eriksen from that advanced position latches onto him. Now there is an easy ball out. Now the goalkeeper's kicking out to the full-backs who are kind of high and wide on the touchline. Then you've got to make a decision whether it's your full-backs go up to engage him or your narrowed up midfielders. But that's kind of moving it on a little bit. So for me,
interesting on that
real
point,
temptation to throw them 2 up the pitch.
To go for it. So you have Son and Kane pressing, and you have Eriksen going for Fernandinho. Interestingly, Jonathan Wilson was just looking back to a game in the last year or so where Spurs really did try to do that. That was at the Etihad last season. And so Ederson, who usually hits 4.1 long passes per game, hit 19 long passes, more than he had in any other game all season. And because he's so good at it, it worked a treat, and Spurs lost 4-1.
Yeah, I don't think I remember pieces of that game. Yeah, I didn't think they had a huge amount. It depends when you kick long. It depends. Like I said, if you commit one of your fullbacks in an orthodox forward to go and engage the opposition fullbacks, when you might find yourself in 1v1 situations at the back mark and 1v1. But you can keep those fullbacks intact. You can ask your narrow midfielders to go out and deal with the opposite, the Man City fullback. So it all depends how much you open yourself up. It's very much dependent if you commit those fullbacks higher up the pitch. I don't particularly remember that ball from back to front. They've had a little bit of success with that Manchester City. I remember against Huddersfield there in the season, Aguero being 1v1 against the Huddersfield centre half. That's the simplest thing to do. You mark 1v1 all over the pitch. Manchester try and play you mark 1v1. But Manchester are clever enough then to isolate their lone centre forward Aguero against one of the centre halves and play, right, we'll play 1v1 now in your half the pitch, we'll kick it 60 yards. I don't think Spurs necessarily be that foolish, but if they did, I fancy Alderweireld and Vertonghen would actually fancy their chances at times against Aguero at 1v1 if that's what it actually takes. A 50-yard ball from Ederson up the pitch through the air, 1v1 against Aguero with players recovering. I think that's a gamble you have to take at times, not all the time, against Manchester City. So that's why I'm fascinated. That's a strong Spurs team, and I look at that Manchester City team and I think there's a real opportunity for Spurs tonight if they get it right.
So like it's a 4-3-3, Gundogan, Fernandinho and David Silva, and then it's Sterling, Aguero and Mahrez. Kevin De Bruyne looked very good the other night. Surprised he's not in there?
It looks as if he's managing him a little bit, Joe, in terms of it's just that the injuries that he's had, and he's just been a little bit careful for him. He's given him a couple of starts, taking him off. Maybe this game coming quickly, he just wants to hold him back. He knows he's got the second leg, so I wouldn't be overly critical of that, but you're right, it does weaken the team. Gundogan's a clever, tidy little operator in that area of the pitch. Bernardo Silva would have been a better option than Gundogan in that area of the pitch. So that's what I'm saying. You can't talk down this Manchester City team. You can never talk down that kind of front five. There's quality all over. But they certainly be strengthened with De Bruyne in there. For me, they'd be strengthened with Bernardo Silva, possibly their best player this season, that front five. And you can't get away from that defensive four. You just can't get away from it. Delph at left back, not a natural full, but very committed in there, quite athletic game and all that type of thing. But question marks over his positional sense at times. And like I said, Otamendi with Walker raiding down that right hand side, potentially leaving him in 1v1 situations against Kane and Son. That's potentially could be a real problem for Manchester City if, and there's always a big if opposition get enough of the ball and get at them down that side of the pitch. And the Man City possession of football is so good, their ball retention is that good, they've backed themselves to keep hold of that football and not give you opportunities to take advantage of that weakness in the centre of their defence. I think this Spurs team is good enough if they can get on the front foot. There's enough technical ability in that team with Winks and Eriksen, particularly those central legs, to get enough of the ball and feed the likes of Harry Kane and Son if he does operate in that high area of the pitch, and Ali getting himself forward from those deeper midfield positions. I think it's set up for an absolute unbelievable game.
And the stadium is going to be bouncy.
Yeah, and it is a factor, and it's for me it's overplayed. Oh, the atmosphere is going to be magnificent. Oh, the opposition team are going to be cowed by it. It's never been the case for me in terms of the affecting opposition teams, especially experienced international players. You can't argue that. But what I would argue tonight, almost at once off, Joe, inaugural Champions League game in this stadium, the construction is saying we've all seen it. If they can really energise that stadium tonight, the fans, I feel as if the Spurs players, forget about the City players, the Spurs, you'll get that kind of almost unique, inspirational, one night only kind of atmosphere that could really drive this team on.
Question from Kieran, and it feels like it's blasphemy to even ask this. Is Harry Kane affecting Spurs' rhythm? Son in particular hasn't been the same since Kane came back.
No, you're laughing at that. So I think that's a conversation for another day.
Let's have it today. Let's have it today.
If you look at the stats when Harry, and I'm a huge Harry Kane fan, don't get me wrong. You look at the stats, I'm not a massive stat man, but you look at the stats when Harry Kane's out of the team as opposed to when he's in the team. Very little difference. Very little, if
in terms of winning percentage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now you can factor in all depends on the type of teams, the strength of the teams you're playing. But generally speaking, it's the same.
Yeah.
So there's an argument there for saying that Harry Kane, they're not the same team. Head and shoulders, they're not the world class team within it. Without him, it doesn't actually stand up, because the attributes that Son certainly brings when he plays in that area of the pitch are totally different in terms of his speed and ability to kind of go in behind.
So what's the downside to having Harry Kane in your team?
Downside is that he can hurt you in behind.
He can or can't?
He can't. And on a straight race, I'd say with about 80-85% of centre halves, a straight race ball over the top, he's not going to win it.
And when he's not playing, can Spurs hurt you in behind?
Oh, absolutely. When Son's playing there, he'll run away from Nicholas Otamendi, right side of centre half. Harry Kane Otamendi tonight, it'll probably be a decent race.
But if you have Son and Kane leading the line, then Son can run in behind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is the benefit of playing the two up front. That will encourage. Actually, what you see more of then, you'll see Son stretch the centre halves in behind, and Kane, because he's so clever, drop into the space to receive the ball, and actually get him a little bit more space to receive the ball. And he's very good linking.
So in that formation, there's no downside to having Kane there.
No, there's no massive downside to having him in the team. But I think it's an interesting.
Kieran's saying Son in particular hasn't been the same since Kane came back.
I'm not too sure because he's so versatile. Son, he can operate off the flanks. He can play left of a three. He might play that way tonight if Spurs play with the 4-3. He probably will, to be honest with you. He probably will play left of three. And he's clever enough to work on the inside, outside to win, actually join in with Harry Kane at times and make up a two. So his versatility means for me Son can be equally effective. But I think you probably to ask somewhere he'd like to play, I think probably it would be in a central position and probably alongside Kane for the same reason we talked about. Kane benefits from having the Son there. Son benefits from having Kane there because he knows if he makes the turn and Kane gets on the half turn with the ball, he'll actually find them. Kane will draw players to him naturally and free up space if he does centre forward. That's a natural thing with a pair. It doesn't matter necessarily who you are.
They complement each other.
Yeah, I think they do. Certain partnerships do complement each other.
So Kane does not disrupt Spurs in any way, is what we're saying.
No. I wouldn't go that far, but I think it is a fair point that he makes.
Would you disagree with it?
No, Spurs are not hindered by Harry Kane. It's just they have to modify their approach slightly with Kane in the team.
Well, that's true of lots of great players.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who's Kenny's favourite for the Champions League outright at this stage?
Oh, jeez. I'd say before. I would buy a hair, cigarette, paper, Barcelona.
What are you talking about?
Ahead of the red. This is how close it is. This is what I'm talking about. How would I separate Barcelona?
Cigarette paper.
This is how it's that close. Probably Barcelona from Manchester City. Another cigarette to probably Juventus even behind that. Have a little bit of a one for Juventus this season. And Liverpool, Liverpool as well.
Off say 4 to Liverpool, is it?
No, they're all there. Liverpool are there. It really is that close. The margins are that fine in the competition. It's only the Messi factor at Barcelona. Messi misses out over 2 legs. I rule out Barcelona. Straight away. I couldn't do that with any other I wouldn't do that with Manchester City, any one player. I wouldn't do it with Liverpool. I wouldn't necessarily do it. Well, I wouldn't rule out Spurs if Harry Kane hadn't been fit over 2 legs against Manchester City for the reasons that I was saying with the options they have potentially with Son there. That's how close it is. And I'm surprised people haven't been talking up how potentially close this game. I know how well Manchester City are playing, the run that they're on. But potentially this team that they've put out tonight, Spurs can get on top of it.
No, it's true.
They really can.
You walked into the office this evening and said, I think Spurs are going to go through over 2 legs.
Yeah, I can make that argument. And having seen the team sheets now, I can certainly make the argument that this Spurs team can win this game. I wouldn't say I expect them to win tonight, but I can see it. I can see a way through for this Spurs starting 11 tonight against this Manchester City 11, undoubtedly.
OK, you've whet the appetite. So those games getting underway in about 6 minutes' time. Coming up between 8 and 9, we'll keep you up to date in the games. And then we're bringing you a special interview with ITV commentator Clive Tilsley.
Get up-to-the-minute news updates at newstalk.com and on the Newstalk app.
I bet you've tried other bookmakers, but have you tried TollsBet.com? Packed with daily features, TollsBet.com offers live in-play betting, ACCA insurance, live casino, and best price on all UK and